What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to From the Top Rope with Andrew Crawford. I'm Andrew Crawford, your boy, the GOAT. Not the GOAT, but I look like a GOAT. Close enough, am I right? I think I'm right. And tonight on the channel, and I say tonight because at the time of recording, it is 10:16 p.m. And I will be discussing, or welcoming you to, another episode of His Case for GOAT, where I take a professional wrestler, past, present, or even future, break down their career, and at the end, I tell you all whether or not they belong on the GOAT list. Now, with that being said, I have already spoiled the first 4 episodes of the series because I literally said, my first 4 are going to be my Mount Rushmore of wrestling, like the 4 guys I think are the greatest 4 professional wrestlers of all time. So obviously at the end of this one, it's going to be a yes. But the wrestler we're talking about, it's going to be a fun one. The subject in question is the Texas Rattlesnake, Bionic Redneck, 2009 WWE Hall of Fame member, and legend, and the man who ushered in an era of attitude back into professional wrestling, the one, the only, Victoria, Texas, born and raised, Stone Cold Steve Austin, WWF champion, Intercontinental champion, Tag Team champion. I think he even... Okay, those are the 3 titles he won, I know for a fact. $1 Million champion, fun fact. The only man that you're allowed to be jealous of, because whenever he got to work, he probably got to beat up his boss. How many of us want to beat up our bosses? Not me. My boss is my cousin. I'm not allowed to beat my boss up. She's family. But with that said, Stone Cold's a legend. Like, if you have ever claimed to be a wrestling fan, you know who Stone Cold is. I know people that don't watch pro wrestling. They've never seen an episode of it. Or if they have, it's been by my hand. My friend Alex. And that's who I'm referencing. One of my closest friends. He is probably my second best friend I've ever had. Doesn't watch wrestling unless it's like an event that I'm inviting people up for. And like, he can watch it in a group of people, but if he's alone, he will not. He will never. And anyways, what I'm saying, he knows who Stone Cold is. He knows who John Cena is. He knows who the subject of next week's episode of this is, The Undertaker. He even knows who Edge is, mainly because of me, but that's aside from the point. Like, he knows who Stone Cold is. He knows that Stone Cold... He doesn't know that Stone Cold's the legend he is, but he knows who he is. Like, if you've never watched wrestling, you know the name Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you ask me, Stone Cold, apart from Cena, is the most influential professional wrestler ever. Back in the 90s and even today, the Austin 316 shirt is one of the top, I think, 15 most selling wrestling shirts every year. I know for a fact it was number 1 for a whole lot of time in the late 90s and a whole lot of time in the early 2000s, probably. Stone Cold is, without a doubt, a legend. He has everything a pro wrestler should have, aside from a gimmick. You know what his gimmick is? I'm one tough redneck. And he'd walk down to the ring and he would open up a can of whoop-a on every opponent he had. Didn't matter if you were 7 foot tall like the Big Show or 5'11" like you were Rey Mysterio. Actually, Rey's not 5'11" because I know for a fact I'm taller than him. I don't actually know how tall he is. I think he's like 5'7", but I know I'm taller than Rey Mysterio, so dub for me. But anyways, Stone Cold was a bad man. That was his gimmick. He didn't need a gimmick because he could do everything else in the ring. You want him to work a 25-minute classic, you're going to get it. You want him to be hardcore, he can definitely do it. You want him to come out there and cut the most savage promo ever and make us believe that he genuinely hates The Rock and wants to run The Rock over with his big old Chevy Silverado, Yeah, he'll do it. You want him to tell a compelling story within his matches? Look at him and The Rock. They did it. The Rock, I have The Rock I elected to move off of my Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling because I felt I need the megastar from the Attitude Era just to make my point. Without The Rock, Stone Cold still would have had his career. He still would have had the legendary rivalry with Bret, the stuff with Shawn, and he would have had, he would have everything he has now without 3 iconic Mania matches aside. Shawn, The Rock, there's no Rock without Austin. You see, Stone Cold was the foil for the corporate champion. Vince could have picked several other guys in the locker room to be his corporate champion. Taker, Triple H, Jericho. Hold on, I'm trying to think of Attitude. Big Show. He could have picked any of those guys. He picked The Rock. Austin was always going to be that corporate foil. He was going to be that anti-authority good guy that you rooted for every single time he stepped in the ring. Rock was not. Rock was never... Rock, if it was not for Vince picking him to be the corporate champion, would not have the career he had. Without The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin is still an icon because he has legendary rivalries still. The Rock's biggest rivalry and most iconic rivalry is with Austin. Stone Cold, you could argue that it's Shawn. Him and Shawn had a heck of a rivalry. You could argue that it's Bret because Stone Cold has the most savage dig at Bret Hart, who I think is so overrated and I love it. He said, if you put the letter S in front of Hitman, you have my exact opinion on Bret the Hitman Hart. Anyways, there's an example of Stone Cold being a savage to whoever. But anyways, my time watching professional wrestling, there has been a lot of wrestlers come and go, a lot of icons of the business. I think Cena is the most iconic, especially for my time watching wrestling, but I think he might be the most iconic wrestler ever. Stone Cold's gotta be a close second. I genuinely think that Stone Cold is the forefront. He is at the helm of the ship. He is the main man behind one of, if not the most successful boom period in wrestling. Aside from maybe what we're witnessing right now with the Triple H era, because it is breaking gate records weekly, it is selling out, it is having iconic moment after iconic moment within it. But until this era is over and we can look at all that mess, Stone Cold is at the helm of what might very well be, as overrated as I think it is, the most successful era professional wrestling has ever seen. It's wild. If you would have looked at him in WCW as the ringmaster, and even the beginning of his WWE tenure, you'd been like, ain't no way. But if I could time travel back and tell stunning Steve Austin that one day he's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin main eventing WrestleMania 17, which is widely considered one of, if not the best WrestleManias of all time, I don't think he'd believe me. I think he thought his career was over with that gimmick. That is what Stone Cold did. And it's all because of one promo. I take you back, my friends. June of 1996, King of the Ring tournament. Stone Cold Steve Austin has just defeated Jake the Snake Roberts. This is where Austin 316 comes from, and this is what is argued to be one of the best promos in professional wrestling. Stone Cold says, "My first decree as king is to get that piece of trash out of my ring," talking about Jake the Snake Roberts. I cackled. I cackle every time I watch this promo. But you fast forward, and yes, maybe you could argue that it's kind of not very appropriate for religious reasons. But his promo, the exact words, were, you talk about your Psalms, you talk about your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, "I just whipped your..." I'm not going to say that word, because I'm not saying those words anymore. That promo took Stone Cold from hitting his glass ceiling to breaking his glass ceiling. And if you have Stone Cold's theme song anywhere in your memory banks, you know that's hilarious. Stone Cold is an icon. Stone Cold is, to professional wrestling, what Tom Brady is to football, what a guy like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant is to basketball. He may not have been the first, but he carried it into some of its biggest success. Okay, Stone Cold is to professional wrestling what Tom Brady is to the New England Patriots. There we go. Because Stone Cold carried professional wrestling into its biggest boom period and most successful era. Tom Brady carried the Patriots into that. There, perfect kind of analogy. But with that said, does Stone Cold belong on the GOAT wheel? Absolutely. Yes, without a doubt. And I promise I will get to The Rock, and I will talk about The Rock and explain, yeah, he belongs there too. But no one from the Attitude Era, aside from a man by the name of Paul Triple H Levesque, belongs on the GOAT wheel more than Stone Cold. And when you look at all the crazy good wrestlers that were around during the Attitude Era, you'd think I'm crazy to say that. Let me name some. Undertaker, who I'll get to next week, Mick Foley, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kane, Big Show. Shane McMahon was a lunatic, but he was still kind of fun to watch. Bret Hart was there for the beginning of it, sort of. There are so many wrestlers that existed at the same time as the Attitude Era. Take the WCW guys. Ric Flair, he was technically wrestling in the Attitude Era for WCW. Hogan, Hall, Nash. Put any wrestler from the time period of the Attitude Era, WWE, WCW, New Japan, I don't care, against Stone Cold. And aside from The Undertaker, and aside from Triple H, personally, I'm taking Austin. Personally, I prefer Taker and Triple H. And honestly, I think Undertaker has a right to be placed above Stone Cold in the GOAT category, but I'll talk about it next week, like I said. But Stone Cold absolutely belongs on the GOAT list of professional wrestling. And just like Edge, in my opinion, and honestly, he's got the argument for it, just like John Cena, and that's not an opinion at this point, that's a fact of life. John Cena's on the Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling any way you slice it. And just like The Undertaker, in my opinion, Stone Cold is a head on the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. He is one of the best professional wrestlers of all time. And honestly, if you disagree with any of the 4 wrestlers on my Mount Rushmore, tell me which one, and then sit down and shut up, because I can take about 25 minutes out of my day and I can explain to you why they belong on the Mount Rushmore or they are a GOAT of professional wrestling. But with that said, that's the video. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Tell me about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And unlike John Cena, I can see you, and I will see you next week when we talk about the dead man, The Undertaker, right here on From the Top Rope with Andrew Crawford for another episode of His Case for GOAT. I'll see you soon.